Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America, where we explore the directorial process in feature film and television production, told from the perspective of the directors themselves. Each episode features a brand new interview with a different director, always conducted by a fellow member and one of their peers. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, or on our SoundCloud page at soundcloud.com/thedirectorscut. This episode takes us behind the scenes of director Nate Parker's film, The Birth of a Nation. The film tells the true story of Nat Turner, a slave living on a Virginia plantation in the early 1800s, who is taught to read so he can preach obedience to other slaves. When Turner witnesses atrocities committed against other slaves, he orchestrates an uprising in the hopes of leading his people to freedom. Following a recent screening of the film at the DGA Theater in Los Angeles, Mr. Parker spoke with director Jeffrey Byrd about the challenges he faced while directing his first feature film. In the conversation, Parker discusses his personal connection to and discovery of Nat Turner's story, the difficulty he faced independently financing the film, and his decision to reappropriate the title of the D.W. Griffith Civil War film from 1915, The Birth of a Nation.
Woo! Whoa. Nate, whoa. Let me tell you something. That was a journey. Sincerely, and from I mean, you just heard it, but I mean, amazing. That was an amazing film. It was amazing artistic expression. It blew me away, had me in tears, had me mad, had me sad, had me happy. I mean, all the things that, you know, a film's supposed to do, but also it raised my human spirit. And it's interesting that I'm able to say that from a film in regards to, you know, lots of death and killing and people dying. But it raised my human spirit of history and my historical knowledge. So my hat's off to you. I need one more round of applause for that, though. Seriously.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Okay, I wanna read something really fast, just for the audience. Not really for you, but it's for the audience, just because I think it gets lost, and what you did with this film brought it to the forefront. Southern trees bear strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root. Black bodies swinging in the southern breeze, strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. Pastoral scene of the gallant South, the bulging eyes and the twisted mouth, scent of magnolia sweet and fresh, then the sudden smell of burning flesh. Here is fruit for the crows to pluck, for the rain to gather, for the wind to suck, for the sun to rot, for the trees to drop. Here is a strange and bitter crop. Now that's from Billie Holiday. And the interesting thing about it is you had the song obviously in your film at the very end. But I think people listen to the music a lot of the times and they lose the message. And I really wanted to say that to this crowd and have the words actually hit, because your visuals totally, fully supported that. So now let me get right into the film. Let me start with history and how historical you felt, unless you want to say something about this.
No, I did want to comment on the poem and the poetry. For me, those words represent almost a resume for America. That is who we are more than we think, then and still, and in many ways, because we refuse to deal with the trauma of it all. And I think that puts us in a very precarious situation, because it's hard to deal with, or it's hard to seek out solutions to problems that are based on miseducation or false identity. So if we can be honest about who we are as America, then we can start dealing with what it might take to deal with the words that you just read.
Yes, I agree. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Okay, so let's talk a little bit. Let's talk about the film. Let's talk about the film. Okay, let's get into this. So, historically, first of all, you literally going from your acting career, you pretty much dropped out of your acting career to make this film. Am I correct?
That's correct.
And so you took that time off, 7+ years or so.
Well, I stopped acting for about 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, about 20 months to raise the money. I mean, as you guys know, when you're dealing with financiers, they require your undivided attention. And when you have to go away and do an acting job, they lose interest very quickly. So at some point, I asked myself, when the money kept falling out, or I had someone on the hook, I thought, and then I said, I'll be right back. I'm going to go do an acting job, and I came back, and they would be gone. I decided to make the ultimate sacrifice, and I call it the ultimate sacrifice because I had, as an actor, so many of us live check to check. Not a millionaire, I'm a thousandaire. And so many of my thousands went into making this film happen. But I felt like to really put skin in the game, I had to walk away from the business to let financiers know I was serious, that I would take their gift and apply it in such a way that they could count on my 100% focus in making their money grow, which is, why a lot of people put money into films.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And so, but with that said, so you thrust yourself into that.
Yeah.
I mean, what was the impetus for that? What was the impetus for this story? Because there's so many stories you could tell. What was the impetus for
me, it was Nat Turner. You know what I mean? And I'll try to use a lens of the director, since I'm speaking to so many directors. When you think about 18 months of your life and what you want to be stuck with, and especially when it's your first time and you know that it'll be arduous and you know that there'll be obstacles, and you ask yourself, well, what is the thing that if every decision I made was the wrong one, if every step I took was a failure, that I could live with it because I was so desperately needing to tell the story. And that was this. I learned about Nat Turner not in school, and I grew up in Virginia, 42 miles east of Nat Turner. I learned about him in my adulthood, and he immediately became my hero. The idea of someone that had brown skin that contributed to the narrative of America seemed like an oxymoron to me, because I never learned about anyone that had such capacity. I learned about people who, threw, balls into, the hoops, and it was, if anyone worth, right, and James Baldwin calls it the gimmick. It's like in our communities where I come from, if you don't have a gimmick, you're done. To say it, to the least. So when I learned about Nat Turner, someone who was not only a person who stood against injustice, but was also someone that did it in the name of God. So when I weighed him against our other forefathers, I felt like he very clearly came out in the wash more heroic than anyone I'd ever read about. And this was my opinion. And that had less to do with the fact that he was a black man and more to do with the facts that he stood for the ideals the country was designed around. So he became my hero. So then when I started to write, and as an actor, I'll go back and forth. At some point, when you can only read so many scripts that say like, Crip number 2 or Blood number 4, before you say, is there something more for me that I can be proud of, that my family can be proud of? And I said, you know what? Nat Turner is the only Braveheart-like story, in my opinion, worth telling. Denmark Vesey organized a revolt. Gabriel Prosser organized a revolt. These weren't realized because they were betrayed. Nat Turner, his revolt was actualized, and it was on this soil. So I felt, if I could get this story out to the people, it would do more good than hurt, for all of us with respect to dealing with our miseducation. So, and I also said, man, if I had Nat Turner when I was 12, or when I was 13, or when I was 14, the age at which we lose in our community so many, maybe that boulder on my shoulder that weighed me down everywhere I went could have been alleviated a bit by the hope of knowing I had in me the same capacity that Nat Turner had in him. And so I began the path of telling this, seeking to tell this story.
Amazing. And so you brought up religion real quick. So I wanted to segue into that as well. So what's your problem with Christianity? I mean, what?
Well, it's a great question. My problem is that it's far too often used as a tool for bondage than a tool of liberation. With that said, I'm a Christian. And I always ask the question, how many people would consider themselves Christian? Is there anyone in here, or a couple? We have some Christian directors. Great. But that's step one. Step two, I have a question for you. Would you consider yourself a Nat Turner Christian, or a Christian like those who beheaded him and skinned him and crushed his flesh to grease? Don't answer. Just think about it.
Think about it.
Because I think that we have to wrestle with the things that permeate our society but bear no fruit. And so I, as a person of faith, I wanted to really challenge, if the country was built on Christianity, but a country used Christianity to keep people in bondage and to torture people. In my research, I read about how before the boats would set sail from England or Spain, they would bring on the priests and they would pray on the top, and you could hear the moans. The slave boats. While they were praying on the top for safe passage, you could hear the moans of the slaves in the belly of the ship. And just that visual to me also feels like America sometimes, because those that should be at the forefront of the movement, regardless of what color you are, people that aspire to be Christ-like, or people that aspire to be filled with faith, or whatever your faith is. Far too often we separate our faith from the atrocities we see, rather than making it applicable to our everyday lives. So I wanted to deal with that, and I also wanted to deal with the iconography of faith. When you hear an angel, I saw an angel in the sky. What do you think about? Is it a white angel? Is it a black angel? Like, what do you think about? Or the idea of when Nat Turner baptized a man. Like, these are things we don't see. I'm 36 and I've never seen it in real life. I performed it as an actor, and I took it seriously. I'd never seen it in real life. So for me, it was, how do we deal with that? Maybe heaven will be segregated. I doubt it. But I just think about these things. So all I wanted to do is introduce imagery that would make you think, as a filmmaker, and I'm a new filmmaker, and I say that humbly, and I'm sure there's so much to learn from everyone in front of me. This is my first feature film. No, thank you. But I don't aspire to make films for a moment, or a weekend, or an awards, or I hope that these films can create legacy. When I look at what Kubrick was able to do, he's I very much aspire to be like him with the way he attacked different genres and dealt with different lenses. I just wonder how will we continue to create art that outlives us, and that maybe hopefully serves as an inheritance to our children's children. And that's kind of been the approach, and that's why I tackled religion. That's why I tackled Griffith, which was a very scary thing. I had my title before I start writing. I know I'm just rolling, so if you have,
okay.
I want to make sure I hit your questions.
I'm loving it.
So just the idea of Griffith. I mean, directors, this is the perfect.
I was
form.
going there next.
Yeah, I feel like we underestimate his power and what he was able to do with the moving image. When you think of 1915 and the first feature-length film, and it being magic, how many people have tried virtual reality? It's interesting, right? It's like, everyone's like, get into VR. And you put it on. They say some people, if their brains can't calibrate, or if the VR is bad, they like throw up. It's like, raw, like right while you're watching it. And you think to yourself, like, man, like the whole platform, things are changing. Now imagine 1915, where people are used to seeing stage productions, and all of a sudden, a man, D.W. Griffith, son of the Confederacy, decides, because of Reconstruction, because of the enfranchisement of black people, we're losing ground. And if we don't do something soon, we'll lose America to this new labor force. So he creates a film that inspires America to embrace white supremacy as a form of self-preservation, and everyone buys in. The misconception is that it just birthed the Klan off to the side, the hillbilly one tooth in the backwood Everglades. That wasn't the case. The Klan was all but dead in 1875, and by 1917, it rose in numbers over 4 million. This wasn't just, this was America. Everyone bought in, and that was the foundation of our industry, and that was the foundation of America. Because Reconstruction really, in a way, was like the birth of our nation post bondage. So in tethering this film to that film, I just want to point back and to say, well, if we're really going to deal with diversity, we're really trying to have those conversations, we need to know, what our foundation looks like, who poured that concrete that we're having such a tough time walking on.
Exactly. And the interesting thing about that's why I was going to go into the whole Birth of a Nation, the D.W. Griffith version, which was originally titled Klansman. That's right. And which is amazing that they were like, oh, okay, well, Klansman. They felt fine with that. Mm-hmm. So, you redefining it for us or for this age is very important, which leads me to my next question. I talk to millennials. Mm-hmm. I know a few of them. Sure. So I talk to some of them from time to time, and some of them I know are here. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of them are trying to release the whole thing about race and everything else. And, why is this film important to them?
Well, first I would say, I'm not sure if they're trying to release it. I think that in the face of such a daunting task, sometimes it becomes easier to just accept the common phrase of get over it, because to not get over it, to face it, just seems like such a gargantuan task. So, when we're dealing with race, we always talk about the conversation, but how many people have had a race conversation party? There's a couple, right? And I think, is that a millennial? Thank you very much. You see what I'm saying? So I think that the millennials are the ones, which is why the last scene in our film, because, how do you end a film like this, And, in the writing, just the idea that the least among us, and Jasper being the Judas, right? Everything inside of us wanted to kind of not hate him, but disapprove of what he did. But he became the change. Nat Turner was just the messenger. And I think that sometimes the messenger, that the idea of the messenger gets sidetracked by what he does rather than the fruit he bears from the seed he planted. Like most of the revolutionaries never get to see the things that they see the fruit from the tree that they plant. They just don't get to see it.
Okay.
Right. There's you could go on and on and on and on and on, cross, race, everything. So with a character like that, it was directly addressed toward millennials or anyone that would consider themselves, whether it be Black Lives Matter or Color of Change, or anyone that is young, that is vibrant, that has the energy to step up to the plate and deal with this issue of race.
Okay, so we're in a room full of filmmakers. Let's talk film. We'll get
All
back
right.
to let's talk film. Okay, so you did this film, but budgetarily, where were you around? Everybody knows the legend of 17.5 Sundance.
Let's go way before that. Okay, couple things.
Yes.
No,
take me on a journey.
27 days.
Nice.
We shot the film.
Nice.
And it was very difficult 27 days because we were bonded. So I did have someone I literally could feel. I can still, when I close my eyes, feel the breath over my shoulder. We had about $8.5-9 million. Okay. And 27 days. The original schedule was 40. The first script I ever sent to a line producer, they said 40 days, and they said maybe 38. Now, of course, I had to cut a lot of pages early on. I really tried to shoot my film and edit my film before I shot it. I got on the page. We got down to about 98 pages. Originally, we were about 121 pages. Got down to about 98 pages, and then we backed into the 27 days. And the way to really mitigate the severity of that was my cinematographer, Elliot Davis, and we spent, please give him a hand, he's remarkable. We met 6 hours a day, every day in prep, 6 days a week. Every morning, he was the first person I saw very early, and then every evening, when I was doing all my departments, he and I sat for an additional 3 hours. And really, it was talking through things. It was shot listing. We shot listed 3 times all the way through the script. I had very, very detailed and intense storyboards, and so we'd start off at somewhere around like 15 setups, and the goal was to get below 10, but my private goal is to get 7 or below. So very few of the scenes you saw had more than 7 or 8 setups. So we really, really focused on getting that down. So we shot this through once, twice, and then the third time it would be me on the day. So the morning on the way drive. On top of only having 27 days, we only had 10 days of shooting because all of our, if anyone shot in Savannah lately? Anyone shooting Savannah? So we shot on real plantations, and these plantations, every single one of them, house real enslaved people, but they were far out from downtown where we were staying. So we lost an hour driving to work, and then wrap out, it was just we were in a very, very, very tough spot every day. And because I'm surrounded by directors, I'll give you the inside juice on how we started in a massive disadvantage. So my line producer was convinced that we'd be able to find, because it was Savannah, between Atlanta and North Carolina, we'd be able to find all the crew members we needed. So everything budgetarily, we assumed we would be fine. And the bond company, of course, the bond company. Gee whiz. Steve Berman, remarkable guy, though. He was really helpful. So he sits with us, and he's like, great, everything looks great. We're going to bond you guys. He bonds us, right? We get to Savannah. No crew. Like, for some reason, everyone's just gone. He's calling people, and my line producer said, the only person that's available is the sound guy. We got a sound guy from Savannah. I'm like, that's it? So we're basically about $300,000 into our contingency before we ever start shooting. And so my phone rings, and it's Steve Berman, the bond company. He's like, so Nate, we got to talk. And I was like, okay, because it's my first rodeo, so I approached everything with humility. Please talk to me and make suggestions. He said, we're going to have a 2-week trial thing to see how you do over these 2 weeks, because no one knew how I worked. No one knew that I would show up or if I was going to crap the bed. Like, no one knew. So here we go. I sit with him. He says, in 2 weeks, you're over, or he said, you are where you're supposed to be at the end of shooting. He says, if you're over, we might have to start cutting plantations. We might have to start cutting or figuring out what it would look like to move forward, which means give the movie to someone else. So one of you guys may have been called to save the film. And I really, in my boldness, I guess, I said, well, this sounds good, sounds fair. But if I make my days and in 2 weeks we're on schedule, there are a couple things that I need. I need a technocrane. I just need it. For this scenes right here, I need more extras. They had something crazy like 80 extras or something.
For the whole thing?
No, for like the end. For the battle and the gallows scene. And I was like, there's no way it's going to look full. And I'm sitting with my first AD. And so I asked for 100 extras. And he just kind of coolly was like, yeah, sure, yeah. If you make your days in 2 weeks, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And then we made our days. We made all our days. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm gonna try.
What was his response like then?
Was
the technocrane on the way, or was it there? Like,
it was there. We were borrowing it from Atlanta, so it made it there. And then, I'm sure you guys recognize the scene where it was very important for me that the scene where Nat is hung, where he goes up, that the camera rises in a way that we rise with him, and he leaves the world behind. He leaves the evil, the negative, that he didn't go away from us, that we rose with him. It was very important we shot it that way, and I just didn't have any other way to shoot outside of the techno, and so that's basically how we did it. But he was very happy. I honestly feel like he was pulling for me. I think being a first-time director really helped. I ran my set very much like a village, where there was no level of importance outside of anyone, everyone, and this is, I always kept telling everyone, I don't know how to do it, but this is the way that, I coach sports. So every best idea wins. I know when to put my foot down, but I also know that everyone has a brain, and hopefully they can be, within the context of what they do. If I allow them, hire the best, get out of the way, allow them to work at their capacity, then nothing but good will come from them being empowered. And it kind of worked that way. There are ideas that came from random people at random times that were very helpful, that we took very seriously. And every day was like a miracle. If you can imagine, every day was a miracle.
Amazing. And speaking of talking about crew, so talking about that, let's since this is the Directors Guild, but also the ADs and UPMs play a major role here at the Directors Guild. How was your experience with your AD team?
It was. It couldn't.
And also the weather and everything with Savannah. Was it?
We're gonna get to the weather. Okay. Don't let me forget.
All right.
Anyone knows anything about the South, specifically Savannah? It rains every day around about 2:00. For about 45 minutes. And then everything's wet. So, we're going to get to that. But my AD department, led by Thomas Dutch guy, goes by Dutch. I don't know if you guys know who he is. He's just a remarkable guy. And what I liked about him more than anything else is that he had the guts to say, Nate, I don't know if this is a good idea. Early on, or I know that you said this is important, but this scene right here, it looks like it's going to take a lot out of us. And then me being like, okay, let's cut it. If it's not something that's driving the story, or especially seeing what we've cut, then let's move forward. Getting to the, I don't have a whole lot of time. Getting to the
Don't look over there. It's all right.
Okay, good. So, kidding. The weather of it all. So we bought a lot of peat moss. Anyone know what peat moss is? So peat moss was our secret weapon because we knew it was going to rain every day, but we also knew that for continuity's sake, we had to make sure that everything always looked dry. So we had a wonderful greens crew that had stacks and stacks of peat moss. So if it rained and when it rained, we would just spread out. The battle sequence, battle scene, we had one day to shoot.
That was one day. That battle
one
sequence.
day. One day we ran 3 cameras the entire time, which was a little expensive because we had to bring in, a crew. But we just ran. I told my.
That's including the room where you guys are in when the
room that once the whole battle up until we went inside of the thing was one day.
It was one day.
The next part I want to say was a half day.
Yeah,
but the battle itself was very tough. The night before I couldn't sleep, so I went to Walmart and and I got a 6-pack of ketchup squirters, like the restaurant kind. And I was, because I couldn't sleep, I went and I was the first one at my little hair and makeup trailer. I said, give me all your blood. I was like, we're going to fill all these up and we're going to give them to the PAs. And I said, as we're shooting, when someone gets shot, just told my PAs, just stand behind the guy with the camera. And when the guy actually just squirt the blood out, just everyone just, and it was, if you could have been at the 50-foot view, seeing PAs just squirting blood everywhere and cameramen just flying. I said, it does not matter. I said, if you have to spend the whole scene or this whole next 5 minutes with a cameraman there, don't worry about it. We'll cut him out. We'll punch it. We'll do what we have to do. Just don't turn the cameras off. And that's how we achieved it. We just, we rehearsed in the hotel rooms all the battle sequences with our stunt coordinator. And then we just shot like we were on fire. We couldn't sit down.
Amazing. Let's talk actors for a second.
Yeah.
So you had a great cast of actors. It was amazing. From Andre, it was an amazing cast.
Thank you.
So my question in this world that we're living in currently, how did you get your white actors to be that comfortable being that racist at all times?
No, but because I don't believe. I really don't believe in villains. I told them people, they did what they did for their reasons. The man that hammered out the teeth, was he bad?
Nonchalantly hammered out the teeth.
But why do you do things that are nonchalant? What explains that attitude? It's necessity. If I own you and I bought you and I've saved up to buy you and I depend on you for sustenance and to eat, then how dare you not eat? Even if you listen to the words, he said, if it ain't the Yankees, it's the drought. If it ain't the drought, it's mutiny. It's not, this is my property and I'm going to bang out his teeth because it's funny. It's, this is my property. Your job is to do your job. And if you're not going to eat, then what am I supposed to do? Starve? And I tried to paint everyone with that brush. Far too often when we deal with these type of films, we have the sociopathic, white man that wants nothing more than to destroy black flesh. I'm not sure I'm concerned with that definition of racism. Definition number 3, actually in the dictionary is number 3. But white supremacy, systemic racism, the systems that cause people to put up these walls of cognitive dissonance and allow them to own people and to destroy people and to terrorize people, whether it be psychologically or physically. Those are the things that I want to deal with because those are the things that are holding us back today. So with my actors, I just told them very earnestly that you have to believe this. You know what I mean? Like when you're saying the N-word, it's almost like saying son of a bitch. Son of a bitch. Like who do you think you are? You know what I mean? Like when you say it, understand what's motivating it. Is it the drought? You know what I'm saying? If you're in a drought and your slave won't eat, don't get it. Or in the case of the Randall plantation, so it is a drought, so you have to conserve what you have. So you don't feed them as much. And then they stop working? How dare them? That's the psychology that we're dealing with. But it's not too far off from the pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Exactly. Which is interesting that word. It's so funny. I just kept hitting me in the head as I'm watching it. The word lazy kept coming out of the mouths, and I don't know if you meant it on purpose to hit people, but I was like, it was amazing. The more I heard the word lazy, the more I heard a slave owner say lazy, and they were fat and slovenly. Meanwhile, all the slaves were in shape. We know what they were doing every day.
Right.
And how could you call that human, or to them that property, lazy? It was amazing.
Well, how do we deal with immigrants in this country? How do we deal with our Mexican brothers? How do we deal? It's just so much. Baldwin, I often talk about. He talks about the simple-mindedness of America, that we don't want to deal with the complexities. It's too hard. It's easy to just put people in a box, and just kind of look at it out of the corner of our eye. That's the problem. Why? Because it's easier to label that the problem than it is to deal with it.
Last couple of questions about craft. So I love the makeup and the prosthetics and everything you did in there, which was so subtle that it almost was unnoticeable. And I hate watching like a slavery film and everybody's got white teeth and everything's fine, and they're just and then it's like, oh, we're slaves, but this. So, but you hit the nail on the head with every little bit, every little detail. How did you prep?
We had 6 weeks of prep. First week didn't count because the money didn't go in the escrow, so I had to move to Savannah on my own. I spent my last $5,000, no joke. Moved to Savannah. We had I went there. Did my first day. He was like, no director of mine's going to be here by herself. He came down. We were in a Econo Lodge kitchenette, had prep for the first week, and then I kind of called everyone. It's like, I'm in prep. I don't know what you guys are doing. Then they fund it.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but my prep is what I'm the most proud of. Armie Hammer is a really good looking guy. And so when I cast him, I said, okay, don't shave, don't shower, like don't cut anything. Just
you could smell him off the screen.
Just show. I mean, he had this chest hair that was literally pushed his shirt out. It was just like, I said, don't shave it. And he arrived and he was like, what do you think, boss? I was like, this is perfect. I had teeth made for him and myself. I'm not sure you could tell, but they were just kind of like shifted the teeth around. So it just felt more authentic. The dolls you saw that were hanging, I had to convince Tinsley Makeup Studios to start making those before we could pay them, before we were funded. And I begged, and they said yes. So they started. If we would have pulled the plug, they would have lost like 100,000. It was really bad. But those were dolls. They were dumb mannequins. But they would look so real.
They look amazingly real. Did they do that based off of like you personally, or were they like
we molded
the story and like?
No, we picked people and molded them. So we picked they're real human beings that walk around that will see themselves like, I was in the movie. But it some of the stuff just took a lot of faith. People just had to have faith. The mask that Asia wore when she was in the bed, also, we made that in prep, and I just was very descriptive. They did Passion of the Christ, Tinsley Studios, so they were the best. And they said if we have enough time, we can do it on a budget. So I got them to start making that face, and I said I want it to look like a pumpkin, and I gave them the word Emmett Till. And remember what Emmett Till looked like? Yes. So that was kind of my historical wink to what happened to that young man. So her face was it was as if I said like a pumpkin, and you only could see the slits where the orifices were supposed to be, where they were. So a lot of stuff was just achieved by prep. I mean, even when you found her, she was on auction block. She had a prosthetic in her mouth coming out. There were just little subtle things that I thought would give us that authenticity. I heard this quote once in this. Can't remember where, but it was basically saying, I'll paraphrase it. It says, filmmaking is convincing the audience member that they're there. And I didn't want anything to show the seams of our struggling budget. So, there were things in the script I just circled every place where I thought we were struggling, that I felt like a scene would show. I would sit with my AD team, or I would sit with my producers and say, I need an advance, or I need some things here to be able to make sure that we have these things later.
And the last question, real quick, you have, to me, I'm watching it, Jesus Christ, William Wallace, Nat Turner. I mean, I got that feeling. I mean, it was that, was there any influence there from those films, from Edward Zwick, who I saw in there?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just you.
Mel Gibson, absolutely.
Yes, Mel.
I reached out to a number of directors, and they all responded. All of them. reached out to Steven Soderbergh, whom I believe is one of the most efficient directors in the business, and he responded. And I went out to New York and sat with him on the set of The Knick, and he gave me so much. He walked me around as he was shooting the day, and then we had lunch together. And one of the most important things he said to me was, know what you want and know when you have it. Make sure that you know your material, you know your process so desperately that you'll know when something seems false, even if it's coming from a producer. And so that was, I reached out to Mel Gibson. He responded. I sent my script to him, and then a month and a half later, I'm at my wife's mother's house, and I get a call, and it's his assistant, and I'm like, hello? It's like, I have Mel Gibson waiting for me. I was like, what? And his biggest thing was Sundays don't work. I mean, I'm just giving you guys the jewels, because if you can take anything from this experience, it'll be easier for you, I hope. He said, Sunday don't work. Saturday night, turn off your phone. Don't turn it off on to Monday morning. He said, if you're going to direct yourself, your greatest asset is your health. He said he did it for something like 7 months on Braveheart, and he said he didn't get sick. He says, if you lose your voice, you're dead. You get sick, you're dead. Ed Zwick, I sat with him. I reached out to him because I did a film with his son, Jesse, and he read the script. He said, come by the office. I went to the office in Santa Monica, and we went through every battle sequence in Glory, Last Samurai, Defiance, and he taught me the importance of foreground in battle sequences. The scene that he saved early on that stuck with me and I was able to shoot properly was a scene when we were in the armory. He said, you want to ground up a bucket of cork, mix that with dirt, and he says, when you let off the shots, have your first AD yell bang, 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 and then bounce the cork, just throw. He said, just throw it. No, just I'm exposing myself. I'm sorry. No. But it helped, because those are the things that, with the atmosphere, the smoke in the room, it just gives that sense of constantly there are things on every single plane. For me, the films that I respond to the most, Kurosawa has a big influence on me because of his use of planes. He shoots his films like I'm looking at you as the audience member. Like as I look out at you, everyone's moving, however slight, and it does something to my perspective in the way that I see you all when I look out. And that's something that I really try to apply in every scene that I possibly could. Whether it be, at the clothesline scene, where it's her, then it's the clothes she's hanging, the clothes behind her, the trees behind her, the woman, Katie Garfield, who was on the porch. I just tried to create as many planes as possible in every single shot, even if it had the slightest bit of motion, because I felt like it gave more of the sense that you were there.
Yeah. Okay, I gotta wrap it up, but wow. Let me just say, amazing film, Nate.
Thank you, brother. Thank you very much.
And for all you DGA members out there, please take away what he said about mentorship. And we have to really, the Guild, do better with that. It's amazing that you were mentored by those guys and you're standing up right here. You're here right now with this piece of art. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Directors Guild, Nate Parker, the director of Birth of a Nation.
Thank you so much. Really quickly, I'm sorry. Really quickly. I have to say this. I'm sorry. Maybe this is my fan moment. But you guys have no idea how much I look up to you all as directors. I've been watching films. I'm sure many of your films for years, and to be standing here with a film that actually was realized and happened. I still have dreams and wake up in the middle of the night like it didn't, but I'm here. I just want to thank you for the work that you do that inspires, first-time filmmakers like me. I couldn't do that without, resting on the shoulders that you guys have provided. So thank you for the work that you do. Please continue to do it. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this DGA Q&A. Check out past episodes of the podcast by subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts or on our website at dga.org/podcast. We'll have a lot more episodes coming your way over the next several weeks, so stay tuned. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America. Music is by Dan Wally.